What's up everybody, Jared here with carbuzz.com, and today I'm bringing you a review of the Audi SQ8. This is technically a 2022 Audi SQ8, but since there are very few changes for the 2023 model year and pricing has already been revealed, I'm going to review this as a 2023 Audi SQ8. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and check out this car. So the Q8 is basically based on the Q7, which is a large 3-row SUV, the biggest one that Audi makes. The Q8 basically takes a row out, changes the styling up a lot to make it look a little sportier, almost like an SUV coupe, but not quite, and just overall gives you a more aggressive appearance. So here at the front, we have a very different look than what we're going to see from a Q7. I like it a lot. It is very wide from this profile. We have our SQ8 badge here. Now this surrounding grille area, so this portion right here, this ring is usually finished in silver, but we have a $2,200 black optic package that blacks that out. It really changes the character of this car quite a lot because the silver ring is kind of like a special characteristic of the Q8. The black optic package is also going to get you these 22-inch black wheels that I am a big fan of. I think these are probably the best wheels that you can get on the SQ8. You can also get red brake calipers as part of a sport package that we do not have, but you do get 22-inch wheels on a lot of different packages on this SQ8. These just happen to be the black optic look ones. You also get black mirrors, some black surround on the windows here. Basically, it blacks out the whole car. You can get carbon as well. You can do a carbon optic package, which is significantly more expensive. Don't know if I'd go that far. I think the black optic package is enough. As I said, this is a more of a coupe roofline than what you'd get on the Q7, but it is not as crazy in terms of how it cuts off the rear roofline as something like a BMW X6 or a Mercedes GLE coupe or a Porsche Cayenne coupe. I think this might be the best looking SUV coupe, if you could even consider it that, because I don't know if Audi technically does or not. If you do consider it, I think it is the best looking one. I love the big light bar across the end. It really just gives this that wide, menacing stance. We have our SQ8 badge here. And unfortunately, like most Audi models, you have exhaust tips that are hidden behind what are not real exhaust tips. Overall, I love how the SQ8 looks. Now, in terms of practicality, the SQ8 beats out its competition if you consider it to be an SUV coupe like the X6, the GLE coupe, or the Cayenne coupe. With 30.5 cubic feet, it has more than all of those competitors. And if you fold down those rear seats, you get almost 61 cubic feet of space, again, which is just way bigger. As I mentioned, it's because this roofline is not quite as raked as we would see in some of the competition. I think Audi did a really good job there. The one thing that I think Audi made a major oversight on is that there are no buttons in here to fold down those rear seats from the cargo area. You have to go to the rear seats to do that. Honestly, I've been in vehicles that are a lot cheaper that include that, so that just seems like a glaring oversight from Audi. Not a glaring oversight is, though, this cargo cover. It is super easy to deploy. You just stretch it down and then you just kind of tilt it and it'll go back up. That is one of, if not the easiest cargo covers to use that I've ever seen. So nice engineering on that Audi. Just add some way to drop down the rear seats from the trunk and it would be perfect. In terms of rear seat space, I'm gonna first open up the door. You can see we have pillarless doors here, which is quite cool. Gives it kind of that coupe appearance with a sunshade. A sunshade on a pillarless door is really cool. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. If I can't remember seeing it. So that's a really nice touch. We do have what appears to be an ashtray in here. I'm not sure if that's exactly what Audi wants you to use it for, but it is there on the door. And we do have sliding seats as well. You have the little lever here that you can use to slide these fore and aft. And you can also use this control to either lower the seats or tilt it forward and backwards. We've got a little over 40 inches of legroom, which is really nice. These nice cargo nets ahead of us as well. More legroom than you're gonna get in the BMW or the Mercedes as well. We also have air vents back here, of course, at a vehicle of this price. We have our own climate controls. They're just not lit up right now because I don't have the car on yet. And then below that, we have a USB-C, 2 of them, and a 12-volt outlet. Everything that you would pretty much need in here. Here's the sliding seat. I'm gonna go ahead and slide it all the way forward for you. so that you can see that is a pretty big difference. See how far forward that is versus that seat. So maybe you have a kid in a car seat that doesn't quite need all of that leg room. That's what you could potentially use that for. Now let's go ahead and check out the front seat. So here in the front seat, you'll see that we have different seats that you're gonna get on a standard Q8. There are these cool S-line seats. We have them in red. You can get them in other colors as well, with this beautiful diamond quilt with the little Audi S logo. I love these seats. They are very heavily bolstered if you're a little bit wider. I'm pretty heavy right now, and I think that the bolstering is just fine. So unless you're on the very plus side, I think these seats are gonna be just fine. They have heating, ventilation, and we have a package that adds massaging as well that is really nice. We also have an Alcantara package. So we have Alcantara here on the doors. We have carbon fiber here on the door as well. You can get some other materials if you're not a big fan of carbon fiber, which I particularly am not. I don't love carbon fiber, if I'm being honest. The interior is gonna look very similar to the Q8, except for the carbon fiber and those seats. Those are gonna be the biggest changes. Our start button is down here. We also have a very nice steering wheel. I do love Audi's steering wheel designs. You have the perforated leather here, and then you have sort of normal leather here. The only thing I don't love is the paddle shifters. They don't feel that great. They're very tiny and they feel very plasticky. Other than that though, the interior in here is impeccable. We've got an extended leather package here on the dash. Everything just feels extremely high quality. All of the buttons that you click have a nice feel and feedback to them. The shifter, everything, it's one of these electronic shifters. Everything in here just feels incredible. We have a luxury package on this car. $4,350 is going to add an Alcantara headliner, extended leather on the door panels. We get the massage and we get memory for the passenger seat as well. Probably worth $4,300 to me. The Bang & Olufsen stereo is $5,000 with 23 speakers, 1920 watts. You can see over there we have our tweeter that's going to pop in and out of the dash. I can go ahead and turn the stereo off and it'll lower, and then I push it again and it pops up. Just a little bit of theater there. We have our digital gauge cluster. I have it on the normal gauges right now. There are some other sportier, more stylized gauges that you can use as well, but I tend to not like them. I think this is the better looking gauge. You can make them smaller or bigger with the information inside. So if you want to have your radio up big, or you can have your full color map, which is quite nice. You can also have a Google Images map, which is really cool. You also have your dual, this is called the Audi Touch MMI system. So they're both touch screens. They have kind of like a haptic feedback to them. So just tapping the button isn't quite enough. You kind of have to press and click, and you'll feel the screen like vibrate underneath your finger, which is kind of cool. Down here, we have all of our climate controls. So you can raise or lower the temperature by tapping these buttons, or you can just slide it up or down. We have our heated and ventilated seats which work at the same time, which is kind of cool. So you can have heating and ventilation at the same time. We have our drive modes down here. So you kind of click on these buttons down here, and you can have comfort, auto, normal, dynamic, or an individual mode. And there's also an all-road mode if you're ever going to off-road it. We do have a surround view camera that works really well on this car. Overall, I find this system to be very easy to use. It's not the best system in the world, but it's pretty darn good. Overall, the interior of this car is all you could really ever want from one of these luxury SUVs. And I think it's screwed together so well. It feels so spacious, and it's so comfortable and so premium. And honestly, this leather feels about as good as what you're gonna get in a Lamborghini or a Bentley. It does feel like you're getting a Bentley on a budget in here. All right, now it's time to get the Audi SQ8 out on the road. And I am generally a very big fan of Audi S models because they are still extremely comfortable, but they add that little dose of performance that most people are going to be able to take advantage of on the road without being so crazy and hardcore and track focused like the RS models. In the case of the SQ8, I think that still really holds true. And in fact, this might be my new favorite Audi S model. So we have a 4-liter twin turbo V8, and it's actually the same engine that you get in the RS Q8, just not as powerful. It's even the same engine that you get in the Bentley Bentayga and the Lamborghini Urus. And when I say it's not as powerful, it's still really powerful. It produces 500 horsepower and 568 pound-feet of torque, going out to all-wheel drive, 60% to the rear, 40% to the front, quattro style, through an 8-speed Tiptronic automatic. And that means that when you put your foot down, you've got plenty of acceleration to get you past the slower people in the right lane as you overtake them. And it still sounds really good because it's still a V8 engine, whereas the regular Q8 only gets a V6 engine and there's no V8 in the standard Q8. And it's really quick too. So let's go ahead and put it into dynamic, which is what Audi calls its sport setting. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the transmission into its S setting as well. So now I can come to a stop, put my foot on the brake, foot on the gas, ready, and launch. Ooh! Woo! It almost does like a DSG fart. This is not a dual clutch transmission, but it does that sort of fart on the shift where it goes. Oh, I love it. It sounds really good. And it sounds really good at all, pretty much any point in the rev range. It just sounds good. The paddle shifters feel a little cheap, but that's typical with Audi, but they work really well. They shift exactly when you need to. 0 to 60 in this car takes 4.3 seconds. The top speed is 155 miles an hour. Is it the quickest SUV in the world? Absolutely not. Is it quicker than any SUV really needs to be? Absolutely. It's a pretty impressive package for weighing 5,280 pounds. This is a real porker in terms of an SUV, and it really does feel that big too. It feels big in here. It's a really wide car. I have a very commanding stance out here on the road. I feel like I'm in a large SUV, not a small compact one. I mentioned that this is larger than things like the X6 and like the GLE Coupe on the inside, and it definitely feels it in here. I don't feel like I'm in a cocoon like some of those other SUV coupes. Now, this particular SQ8 is missing a very important but expensive option. It's called the Sport Package. It's $5,900, and it gives you roll stabilization using the 48-volt mild hybrid system. So when you chuck it into a corner, it'll use that 48-volt mild hybrid system to balance things out. This one doesn't have it, so when I take this corner really fast, oh, there's a lot of lean through the corner there. This is not as sporty as I might want it to be in an Audi S model. And I've driven a similar type of system in the Bentley Bentayga and some other SUVs. It makes a huge difference, and it doesn't ruin the comfort at all. With that $5,900 package, in addition to the active roll control, you also get red brake calipers. I could take or leave those. They probably look really good. And you get a sport rear diff, which again, probably just helps with making the SQ8 feel a little bit sporty. I typically don't love expensive sport packages on big SUVs like this, but having driven the SQ8 without it, I think it's probably worth it, and I would definitely go for it. This is a very fast, very performance-minded SUV, and I feel like you're not getting the full experience without that package. And we're gonna wrap up with fuel economy. It's the one area where this SQ8 kind of sucks. It's 15 mpg in the city, 21 on the highway, 17 combined. If you really care about that, just get the regular Q8. You can get pretty much all of this stuff just with a turbocharged V6 engine instead. And if you're really crazy, you can get the RS Q8, which is like 600 horsepower. It's almost as powerful as a Lamborghini Urus, not quite. It's like 50 horsepower less, but you get similar performance. I think the Q8 package looks better than the Lamborghini Urus. I think it looks better than the Bentayga as well. And honestly, driving it, I haven't driven the Urus, but I have driven the Bentayga. The SQ8 feels similar enough to the Bentayga that I would be perfectly happy buying this instead of the Bentley. So that was the 2023 Audi SQ8. All that's left to do is price it and see how it compares to the competition. The Premium Plus model is going to start at $95,500 for the 2023 model year. That's about a $2,000 price increase from the 2022 model year, so just something to note. The Prestige model is going to bring you up to $101,500. I think it's worth it if you're already spending that much money on an SQ8. As tested with all the packages, you're at about $115,000, maybe a little less, depending on what you spend on options, but you could definitely go higher than that if you've got the Sport Pack and the Carbon Optic package. Now, the SQ8 starts at a higher price than the Mercedes AMG GLE 53. It has more power though, and it's more expensive than the BMW X6 M50i, which has a little bit more power than the SQ8. Those are the most comparable models, but if you think about what the Audi gives you as standard, the Mercedes and the BMW can become equally as expensive if you add options, so pricing isn't really a factor there. You're going to have to think more along the lines of what you want out of your SUV. I think that the SQ8 is by far the best looking of the three. It is the least coupey, meaning that it has the most trunk space, the most rear leg room, and I think it looks the most conventional out of the three, so it doesn't have that weird coupe rear styling. And honestly, I think it is the best executed of the three. It's not quite as sporty as the BMW or the Mercedes, but it is the most comfortable and it still sounds really good. So if I were in the market for a big luxury SUV coupe, I think that the Audi SQ8 is exactly what I would want. I really hope you've enjoyed this review of the 2023 Audi SQ8. For more videos like it, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. And if you want to read more about the Audi SQ8, be sure to check out carbuzz.com.